Hello again, my little conscripts, and welcome to another Mordian Glory video. In today's episode, I want to take you through step by step my tournament beginner mechanized guard army. Wait, what? Tournament and beginner list? How does that work? Surely those two things are diametrically opposed. Well, that's just the beauty of this list. Not only is it incredibly powerful, not only is it battle tested over multiple events, multiple metas, multiple years, but it's also very simple to pilot with very few moving parts, and yet all the tools that you could possibly need in your toolbox. A bold statement indeed. I'm going to have to back this up. So without further ado, let's mount up, roll out, and dive right into this thing.
Attention guardsmen, the Commissariat has detected you have not yet liked this video. Do so immediately or else you will face the Emperor's wrath. And anyone who has not yet subscribed to the channel will be transferred to the penal battalions. That is all. Move out!
So how this video is going to work, if you've not seen one of these army overviews before, is I'm going to take you through the army list itself first. I'm going to go into detail of each unit, what it's equipped with, and more importantly, what its battlefield role is in my overall game plan. Once that's all done, I'll get into why I think this list is both beginner friendly and also tournament competitive. From a competitive point of view, this list really is doing everything that you want from a late 10th edition Imperial Guard army. It has plenty of objective control and plenty of firepower. It has the ability to deal with assault armies thanks to the fact that it's got lots of screening, and against certain assault armies and certain assault units, especially things like Necron Wraiths is a good example, you can actually end up pulling the Uno reverse card out and tying them up with things like Chimeras, which are definitely cheap distraction holes. I chose the Combined Arms detachment for two reasons. Firstly, it is very much the beginner detachment. It's the one that most people gravitate to because it's fairly straightforward. The detachment rule affects a very wide variety of units. You're not having to specialize and overspec into one direction. And on top of that, I do think it's actually the most powerful. There's a lot of chit chat about things like Hammer of the Emperor and Recon, but overall, I still think that the good old Combined Arms attachment is fantastic. At the end of the day, lethal hits is very, very powerful. Being able to get that army-wide, albeit with a few restrictions, is incredibly potent. Quick side note, but I'm mostly interested in taking the lethal hits for the vehicles than I am for the infantry. The reason for that is, in my experience, I have found that you need the lethal hits more against those tougher armored targets, those big bugs, those big knights. But when you engage other people's infantry, typically your tanks are okay with dealing with them. Now there are exceptions to this. It's great to be able to have lethal hits against things like Custodes and all that kind of stuff. But generally, if you fire a Lehman Russ tank at a squad of infantry, it's going to feel it whether you have lethal hits or not. Full disclaimer here, I am mostly interested in this attachment for the lethal hits. We will only be taking advantage of one of the enhancements, which will be Grand Strategist, and I'll talk a little bit later on where I have used that. And as for the stratagems, they are useful, but we haven't built any combos around them. If I need an extra AP boost, I have access to that with Fields of Fire. If my tank commanders go down, I can use the stratagem that lets my infantry officer do tank orders. But generally speaking, the stratagems are nice to have. The enhancements are, we've taken one of them. Mostly we're here for the lethal hits. In fact, I'm going to go a step further and say the go-to stratagems with this list are grenades, tank shock, and smokescreen, all of which can be found in the main core book. I believe this makes the list also a bit more beginner friendly because you're not having to worry about, oh, I've used this stratagem and I've got this unit in mind with it. No. You just get to focus on some core rulebook stratagems, keep those three in the back of your mind, use them as and when it is appropriate, and you don't have to worry too much about your codex ones. But that's enough about the detachment. Let's get into the real reason you're all here, and let's talk about the units. And of course, we have to start off with the infantry corps. Because every day in the corps is like a day on the farm. Every meal a banquet, every paycheck a fortune, a formation a parade. I love the corps. So of course, this being a mechanized guard army, our infantry corps is going to be all mounted up inside dedicated transports. We have got 5 units of Katjan jungle fighters, every single one with double flamer and a voxcaster, and each one of those is going in a dedicated transport of a Chimera APC. Each Chimera has got double heavy bolter, a heavy stubber, a hunter killer missile, and of course we have got the lasgun array and the firing deck. Some of you will be thinking, Mordian, where are the Kazakin? Where are the Tauroxes? Those units are very good, and they're very good in multiple different detachments, but I do not want those units in this list. Why? Because those units are damage dealing units, and when you see what we've taken in the tank corps, you'll see we've got enough damage dealing units in this army. What I want from my infantry corps here is to be able to do a reasonable amount of damage to contribute to the damage output, but that is very much their secondary job. Their primary job is to go after primary objective. Each one of these chimeras can dump onto a primary objective 20 objective control, 22 objective control if you include the chimera itself. This allows me to have an incredible amount of objective control in this army. In fact, there's 110 OC between these squads and these chimeras. This often, in nearly all battles that I've played with this mechanized army, gives me a massive primary objective advantage over my opponents. They're scrabbling around, putting 4, 5, 6 OC onto objective. I can put 3 or 4 guys from one squad and I can just flip that objective over to me. I can deny it to them. I can potentially score secondary game off that as well. It's just so nice having an OC advantage. Now, normally when you're running hybrid guard, you get the OC advantage from big blobs of guardsmen, but they don't do as much damage. They're not as fast because they only go sort of 6 inches, and if you move, then you have to give up damage output and all that kind of stuff, and they don't get the lethal hits against the big things. So infantry-based OC dumping is a thing, but I actually find it to be more powerful inside the chimeras, because the chimeras are bringing a hell of a lot of firepower. If I am within 12 inches, I am able to put out 6 heavy bolter shots. They do have sustained hits. Then I get 6 heavy stubber shots as well. That's 12 shots. Then I get 12 shots from the lasgun array. That's 24 shots. Then I have the hunter killer missile. Then I also have the flamers firing out of the firing deck. Now, individually, one of these chimeras isn't going to bring down an Imperial Knight anytime soon, but they can certainly chip off the last few wounds. Let's say I've managed to bring a big scary unit down and it's almost destroyed, but it's got 2 or 3 wounds left over. Rather than dedicating a whole extra tank to finishing that off, I can take one of these chimeras whose main job is not to kill things, and I can just go pitter patter, daka daka, and I can take those few wounds off. Because again, I'm gonna have lethal hits. On the heavy bolters, I have lethal and sustained. It's a double doozy. So the number one battlefield role for this infantry is to do primary objectives. The number one role for these chimeras is to protect my infantry. But any damage they can do on top of that is nice, and they do a remarkable amount of chip damage between all 5 of them. Now, I just want to go on a quick side note on mechanized infantry tactics with chimeras, because it's a bit different to Tauroxes. When you use Tauroxes, typically it's just a delivery system. You want to put something like engineers in there or some Kazakin in there, and you just drive forward as quickly as you can, do the advance, jump out, because you can advance and jump out with a Taurox, and then the infantry start blazing away and doing damage. Now, that is a great way to do damage, but what you tend to find is it's a one-shot missile. The Taurox goes forward, it doesn't really do any damage itself. The guys inside jump out, they do the damage, but inevitably they've gone into a bit of a hot zone, especially if you're doing this early on in the game, and then they will die, and then you've lost that infantry squad, and you've lost that Taurox. You've lost those 2 assets from your army. With chimeras, you want to adopt almost the opposite approach, and there's a golden rule with chimera infantry tactics. If you get to turn 3, and the majority of your infantry is still alive, and or still inside its chimeras, then you are in a very, very good position and you are more than likely going to win the game. I know it sounds crazy, but the reason for that is because you are going into the latter part of this game with the ability to constantly be taking over those objectives. With Tauroxes, the idea is to deliver damage. With Chimeras, the idea is to husband and protect the vital objective control. I have had units of infantry stay inside their Chimera the entire game, and that has been okay. That hasn't been a wasted asset. They've been flaming, they've been having a great time, they've been contributing, but they just haven't needed to get out. That Chimera has been enough to hold that objective. And it sounds crazy, but in my mind, that is a win. The more you can protect this infantry, the more you can husband it, the better. You're always going to have to sometimes get a unit out and sacrifice it for the sake of denying some points, of course. But the main thing I'm trying to hammer home here is Chimera mech infantry is all about protection. Taurox mech infantry is all about charging forward in a blaze of glory. Now, one last thing I want to talk about before we get to the Leman Russes, because I know you guys are here for the big tonks. These chimeras are also a vital part of my screening. They are in the vanguard. Each one of these chimeras does have scout thanks to the Catachans. I love scouting them. I will scout them very aggressively most games. Of course, I don't want to scout them full-heartedly. I don't want them going out into the middle of the open to getting destroyed. That would defeat the point of them protecting the infantry, like I said. But the point is that these guys are going to be going forward, and they're going to be pushing enemy deep strikers back. They're going to be absorbing the first charges, and they're really good at doing that because if the Chimera gets destroyed, the infantry squad pops out, and guess what? Your opponent still has a anti-deep strike unit to deal with. And also, if they charge the Chimera and destroy it, and the infantry squad pops out, well, that's fine. Because I've still got another unit there which can do screening. I've still got another unit there which can do charge blocking. The Chimera infantry combo is a great jack-in-the-box. It's a great Russian nesting doll. It's a great way of just screwing over deep striking as well as messing with assault armies. But moving on, we have got the Armoured Corps. And we have gone for not one, not two, but 5 Leman Russes. We've got 2 Leman Russ tank commanders with executioner plasma cannons, plasma cannon sponsons, and las cannons, and heavy stubbers and hunter killer missiles. And one of these is going to be upgraded with Grand Strategist, so he can do an extra order. We've then got 3 Leman Russ Vanquishers. That's right, it's Vanking time, baby! And each one of these has got a las cannon, 2 plasma cannons, heavy stubber, and hunter killer missile. First thing I want to address is the lack of Dawn. I'm going to be real with you. I am not a fan of the Rogel Dawn. I think it's a perfectly okay tank. I think it's a perfectly fine tank. I think that it can take a lot of damage, but I do not like its damage output. I struggle with the fact that its main gun is only AP -2. I struggle with the fact that most of its side weaponry is not only strength 9, which is okay, but then it's the double kicker of then it only being very short range, like 18-inch range on them multi-melters. This often means that the multi-melters are not in range. What I love about all of these Leman Russes is I don't need an exterminator to boost the AP. I don't even need a stratagem to boost the AP. If I'm going to use Fields of Fire, I'll probably be on an artillery team and a Chimera. I don't need anything else to make these guys have enough AP to rock my opponent's world. Each one of these Leman Russ Executioners is rocking AP3 weaponry. The main gun is AP3, the las cannons are AP3, the plasma cannons are AP3 because I always be overcharging. And likewise with these Vanquishers, all of these weapons are AP -3. Or in the Vanquisher cannon's case, AP -4. So this just means there's so many less moving parts in this list. Each tank, the only thing it needs is an order. The only thing it's going to need is take aim 90% of the time, and the other 10% is going to be move, move, move. That's it. Every so often, I might go for maybe 1 additional percent of the time, 101%, screw it, I don't care, math isn't my strong suit. 1% of the time, they're going to get duty and honor as well. But the objective control is being handled by this. The damage is being handled by this. And it's very point and click. Oh, look, there's a big enemy monster. I need to kill it. Fire the first Vanquisher. Did that work? Maybe it killed it, maybe it didn't. If it didn't, fire the second Vanquisher. It's probably dead now. It's probably feeling it now. Oh no, there's some elite enemy infantry over there. I need to make sure that I'm killing them. My vanquishers will be able to do some of it, but they don't really have the volume. Oh, that's okay. I've got goddamn Lehman Russ executioner plasma cannons on my tank commanders, which have got just all of the strength 8, all of the AP -3, loads of damage 3 and damage 2. Just that is going to rinse through any infantry. Blast is going to give me a massive advantage against hordes. I kid you not, I've used this list. I've used this particular loadout on this tank. And from the plasma cannons, each one gets blast. Because it's not twin plasma, they're 2 individual weapons. And I was firing to a blob of guardsmen, and I got +5 on that plasma cannon because I had a command squad. +5 on that plasma cannon because of a command squad. +5 on the main gun, which is actually D6 +8. One of these tanks basically gutted an entire 25-man guard platoon. It just needed a little polishing off from an artillery team. That happened in a tournament. That happened in a tournament that I'm going to be doing an after-action report about with this list. It was glorious. So these tanks smashed the really big scary stuff, because at the end of the day, you've got to respect a vanquisher. You might have a 4th invulnerable save on Magnus. You might have a 4th invulnerable save on some big scary monster. But if you fail it, and you might fail at the worst opportunity, you are going to be getting cut in half by one of these things. So these are psychologically a real problem for my opponent. They're a bit of a dilemma for my opponent. And at the end of the day, it's a Lehman Russ for 145 points. The plasma cannons give them the range that complements the rest of the weapons. And most importantly, the reason why I go for plasma cannons is kind of like I explained over here. It also gives the vanquishers volume, which is one thing that they struggle with. I'm just not a fan of multi-melters. I've tried them and tried them and tried them and tried them and tried them. I'm just not a fan of multi-melters. They're either not in range, they only get to fire once or twice per game. When they do fire, there's a chance that they just won't get the wounds you need. Maybe you get lethals, maybe you don't. Maybe you roll 5 or 6 to wound, maybe you don't. I just had too many times when my multi-melters have only got to fire once per game and then they've just screwed it. But my plasma firing every single turn gives these vanks proper volume, which is the only real weakness that they have. And then we've also got, as we said with the executioners, really good volume here, but it's not only quantity, it's also quality, because it's goddamn plasma. And then if I need even more volume, well then these are where the supplementary firepower of the chimeras come in. So that covers all of the armored components, but we do have a few little accoutrements, some supporting units, which are vitally important to this list. At the back here, we have got 2 artillery teams and a Cadian Castellan to order them around. Both these artillery teams are equipped with heavy mortars. We've gone for the heavy mortars because they're very reliable on their damage output. D6 +3 is just not very swingy. It's very reliable, and with blast taken into account, and the targets that we'll typically be going after with these things, which are going to be bits of infantry sat on objectives out of line of sight, we should be getting an extra +1 or +2 shots each time we fire, for a total of D6 +4, D6 +5 from each team. Typically these guys are going to be shooting at the same target. One artillery team isn't really enough to wipe out a 5-man squad anytime soon, but 2 of them will pretty reliably take out a 5-man unit of some low-level ship munchers that are just sitting on a home objective or a natural expansion objective out in no man's land. We're not expecting this artillery to blow entire armies off the board. It's very much sitting in the category of harassing fire, of supplementary force. The other big job that it's going to be doing is giving us something that can happily sit on our home objective and reliably hold it. Artillery teams are really tough. For most backfield objective holders, you're looking at just like a few wounds, bit of toughness, not too much. Artillery teams are T7 with a 3-up save and 10 wounds. And we're going to have 2 of them and a Cadian Castellan happily chilling on our home objective, doing lots of good shooty things and making sure that our home objective stays under our control. And last but not least, we've got the Commissar and the Scout Sentinel. The Commissar goes in reserve every single game, and his job is just to give us a very cheap unit for doing things like behind enemy lines, big established locus, and engage on all fronts. The great thing about the Commissar for this job is he's only 30 points. So even though he will be in strategic reserve and won't be able to get into the enemy backfield until turn 3, If I don't end up drawing that card or I end up drawing it early, it doesn't really matter. He's only 30 points and he's still just good for going around and doing some secondary points. Sometimes if I've already got behind enemy lines, what I'll do, I'll bring him on turn 3 towards my home objective just to help secure that, or to another mid-board objective if I need an extra unit round there as well. He's not too bad at essentially ad hoc leading a squad of infantry that come back from reinforcements as well. Obviously he can't join that squad, but they can come on and then he can come on, he can give them fixed bayonets or duty and honour, and he can add a bit of plasma pistol fire as well. He's just a very cheap unit that can do a bunch of secondaries, and if it doesn't go off, then that's fine because he's only 30 points. And we have a similar sort of idea with the Scout Sentinel as well, but this doesn't go in reserve. This is there for if you draw area denial turn 1, but you don't want to sacrifice a 150 point Chimera with a squad of infantry inside it. You want to take a 55 point Sentinel and just go, yep, I'm going to scout move forward. If I draw area denial, great. If I don't and it dies, it's fine. It's only one Scout Sentinel. It's not the end of the world. It's a very cheap investment. Between the Scout Sentinel and the Commissar, we have covered all of our tricky secondary game for the low cost of 85 points. That is much cheaper than a unit like Gaunt's Ghost, and individually these units are both cheaper than a squad of Scions and bring more to the table. Putting this all together, we've got 5 squads of infantry in 5 Chimeras, 5 Leman Russes, 2 artillery teams, 2 characters, and a single Scout Sentinel. That covers the list in detail, but now let's zoom out and talk about why I think it's both competitive and beginner friendly. From a competitive point of view, this list is really bringing everything to the table that you'd want from a late 10th edition Imperial Guard army. Overall, this is a 2,000 point army and it has been taken inside a combined arms detachment. You've got things for sitting on your home objective, things for going out and getting primary objectives. You've got things for doing actions and for doing secondary objectives. And you've got enough firepower to make sure that your opponent can't just walk up to you and disrespect you. You have a lot of tools in this toolbox, and between the advanced maneuverability and the advanced firepower, you have the ability to be proactive in the game, not reactive. Just digging a little bit further into that whole proactive versus reactive thing, how most players expect guard to work, especially if they're playing into them, if they're against the guard that is for the guard player to kind of be a bit more timid, sit back a bit and rely upon shooting to get all of the work done. This list allows you to be a lot more aggressive than that. You've got the speed to get into the opponent's grill, to hit them from angles they weren't expecting. A tank with a good movement lane and being able to go move can definitely blast forward, get round the side of the L-shaped ruin and start laying down that firepower. And one thing I've definitely noticed in late 10th edition between a lot of enemy vehicle armies and between a lot of these elite infantry armies is there's a surprising lack of screening. That doesn't mean there's no screening, but there's a surprising lack of it. And I have taken things like Chimeras and actually charged enemy units with them, charged enemy fire support units with them. I've had a Chimera tie up Tyrannofexes, Exocrines, and like I said earlier, Wraiths, and many other things as well. You can be quite ballsy with this list because it's quite tough and has a lot of redundancy built into it. But what about that beginner aspect? I think this list is very beginner friendly because of 2 factors. Firstly, there are very few moving parts. It's a very simple list. We're not taking one unit and combining it with another unit and then slapping a stratagem on top and then this has to be executed turn 1, this has to be executed turn 2. No. It's very broad brush. It's very generalist. The Chimeras can operate independently. They don't need another unit to support them. The tanks can operate independently. The only thing they really need is to make sure they're getting orders. That's about it. The artillery has its role and it does the same thing every single game. That's the big deal with it. It's consistent. The Chimeras are doing the same thing each game. The tanks are doing the same thing each game. The artillery is doing the same thing each game. The Scout Sentinel and the Commissar is doing the same thing each game. It allows this list to be very, very consistent. You can play it consistently. You can really get those reps in and hammer that strategy out. You can get an idea for not how this list thinks about how this list feels. If you get enough reps in with this thing, you'll be able to pilot on gut instinct alone. And that can be very, very useful for a beginner. So you're not having to constantly overthink and remember 7 different things that have to come together. I have to have this Hellhound fire first, then this Exterminator, then I can shoot my Rogal Dawn, and then I want to put the stratagem on it. No. There's an enemy unit. Take aim on a tank and shoot it. There's an objective, a prime objective that you want to take off your opponent. Take one of your chimeras, go and take that objective. There's a small enemy unit that's hiding on an objective behind an L-shaped ruin. That's what the artillery is there for. Oh, I got area denial, or I got another objective that requires me to go out into the middle early on. I don't want to expose the chimera. That's why I brought the Scout Sentinel. And the Commissar, he's going to reserve every single game, like we said. It's very basic. It's not complicated at all. And yet, it doesn't suffer because of that. There's no disadvantages because of that. It's just very solidly built. And I think that is so important for beginners. Because if you're a beginner getting into 40k, it's a complicated game. People say 10th edition's been watered down, dumbed down. It's not true. 10th edition is the most competitive game. You need to be on it if you want to win. And sometimes it can be very overwhelming trying to remember everything. But when every chimera is equipped the same and does the same job, when every squad is equipped the same and does the same job, when every tank is basically the same, they've all got the same front weapons, they've all got the same sponsons. You've only got to remember that some have got big Vanquisher cannons, some have got plasma executioner cannons. It's very homogenous, it's very standardized. And again, that gives you consistency on the battlefield, and it makes it easier to learn and to get a feel for what each unit can do. But of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Do you think this is a good list? What do you like about it? What do you dislike about it? And what would you change about it if you could do anything to it? Rogal Dawns, mayhaps? Let me know. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to go ahead and smash that like button and also subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing, truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members, so thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bonbon Vert, Lord Pryor, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.